up? And welcome into another episode of the Worship Based Coffee Podcast. I'm Jay Soleil, your host. Welcome in. Thankful to have you here today for episode 19. And this next guest is a good friend of mine from the Bridge, plays electric guitar. I decided to do March as a month of electric guitars, even though Nate, which is our last guest, is kind of a utility guy. Still, electric is kind of like his main thing. But it was really fun having him on. So I thought, hey, let's just do a month of electric guitarists, and then we'll get back to our regular bassist format. But this next guest, Jordan, is a great friend of mine from church. We have served together for a long time. He's a great musician, great hang, just a joy to be around. And so I had asked him, hey, man, would you like to hop on the podcast? Love to hear your story, just talking about when you used to tour and all of that stuff. It'd just be really fun. And so with that said, I've got my cup of coffee here, so I'm ready for the podcast to dive in and listen. And so with that being said, let's get started. What's up, Jordan?
How's it going, man?
It's going good. Good to have you on the Worship Based Coffee Podcast.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped to be here.
Very first thing is, and I don't think I've ever asked you this before, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's a lot easier than people make it sound. It's Lavagnino.
Okay.
So the
Lavagnino.
G is silent, so makes it real
Because
simple.
I just always refer to you as J-Lob, just like everybody does. So
Yes.
then all of a sudden when like we were texting back and forth and I was looking at your last name, I was like,
Yeah.
But I deal with the same thing with my last name too. So
Yeah.
you just, and actually the same thing, you just pretend like the Z isn't there, Soleil. So it's
Yep.
the same kind of
The
thing.
the first day or the first week of school was always my favorite because there's just
Yeah.
hearing my teacher, butcher the last name. They'd always
Right.
trip it up, so it's fun.
It was funny too, because you're like, these are the higher education teachers. They're supposed to know how to phonetically say people's names now.
Yeah. They know it's Italian, but that's about it.
Yeah. Anyway, cool, man. Well, just kind of kicking things off. I like to, because, there are some people that come on that like are full touring musicians, and do this, but a lot of people are just 40-hour a week guys and then just serve on the weekends. And so I always like for everybody just to share a little bit, because I think it's kind of cool because it's all related with your story of how coming off the road and kind of pivoting into what you're doing now, which is also very cool. But if you can just share a little bit about what you do now.
Yeah, so like current day stuff, I work in video. I do everything from commercials to docs to brand pieces to you know, testimony, personal story highlights. I do a wide range of different types of video stuff, but it's all video based and I love it. So it's super fun.
That's awesome. I know also I've seen you doing some like music video type stuff
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yeah.
And also, and is it some of it is photography related as well, isn't it?
Yeah, some of it too. I do a lot of music stuff. And I mean, you have to if in Nashville, you kind of have to. It's not like necessarily my favorite stuff to do, but nowadays I find an artist that I just really like their vision, or I really like their music, and I want to try to make something cool. But that's typically the extent of the music video side of things. I know there are guys out there who like just hunt down music videos and they just do music videos, and their stuff is incredible. I'm definitely more geared towards like commercial and brand stuff. But I always love a music video. Keeps it fresh, keeps it fun. And I do some work as a photographer, but my bread and butter is videography work as like a director, DP, editor, all that kind of stuff.
Nice. It's do you and you do some live stuff occasionally too, right? Video,
Yeah. Yeah, like
like
live
band.
capture.
Mhm.
Yeah, Joey, who we both know from our church, him and I do, some live capture stuff in that corporate and, worship sessions, stuff like that, wrangling in 6 to 12 cameras and making it all
Piece together.
consistent is
Yeah,
crazy. It's fun,
yeah.
but it's just a puzzle. I was talking to a buddy the other day. I was like, "Man, it doesn't matter what kind of video I'm doing. Like, I just look at it as a puzzle to put together, and I love it. It's super fun."
Yeah, and I'm sure it's too, it's, just like music, being getting to be creative there, you still are able to keep that creativeness because you just everything's different from each client, where that you're doing, and so it's always keeping those, creative juices flowing.
There's always a problem to solve. Always.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. Well, did you're originally a, West Coast guy, aren't you?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm from
Uh
California originally.
Okay, well, can you share kind of like how you got started with music? Like
Man.
as a kid,
Yeah.
how did that begin for you?
Yeah. So my dad is a pastor of a church. And we were a set up and tear down church. They built property like 7 years ago, I think, maybe longer than that. But we were a set up and tear down church for 22 years.
Mm,
In a middle school cafeteria in Clovis, California, Central California. And yeah, my dad was in Christian bands or a Christian band growing up and they had some traction. They were working on a record label, that sort of thing. I remember growing up having a drum kit in the garage that his buddy needed a place to practice and store his kit, so we had that in the garage. We had like a mini grand piano for a little while. My dad was a keyboard
nice.
player, and then we had keyboards like throughout the house. So he was kind of a when I was born, he was you know transferring from a musician to pastor,
Okay.
and or he had been doing that, so he still had his collection of instruments. But yeah, I always loved it. I wanted to play keys just like my dad, and but guitar was the cool thing. So I started to kind of fiddle around with my dad's Ovation. He had an Ovation. If you played those acoustic guitars, they have
Yep.
the carbon fiber rounded back to them, which made it impossible to keep up on your
I
lap. It kept
know.
sliding down, and
You had to
especially
have
when
a
you're
strap.
like, yeah, especially when you're like 7 years old, it's already
Yeah,
like up here, and it just keeps sliding down.
yeah.
But man, I was determined. I learned a couple bar chords or a bar chord, and then a couple open chords from him, and then I started to sit in on the worship team practice, and I got a copy of the sheet music back in the day, and we didn't play to tracks or click. It was just like you show up, and the song was more of a reference, and then in the moment we would just change things in flow and change dynamics and order of the song, and we kind of make it all up on Thursday night rehearsals. And it was great because I just got to sit there and soak all of it in. um, we didn't have a church property, but we did have like church offices, and connected to it was like our youth room that we'd have
Oh.
youth group in. So being the pastor's son, I got keys to it. So I would go in and play, like, they had drums there, so I'd play drums and I'd play bass, I'd play guitar, like, uh, and this is like in high school, and that's what I would do till like 2 in the morning, and I could be as loud as I wanted to, and it didn't matter. It was awesome. But then I got the hang of guitar, and I asked my dad. I was like, "Dad, can you teach me keys?" He was like, "I tried teaching your sister and it was so terrible. Like, no, I'm not going to teach you. Like, if you want to learn, just try to figure it out yourself." So I, I kind of dabbled a little bit with keys, but guitar is, my bread and butter. And I loved to play and worship band from there. started my own band and kind of had a whole crazy thing with that too. So
Nice. Well, what do you think made you like how do you say it, attracted to or wanting to play the electric guitar the most? Like kind of since you're around all those other instruments, what do you think kind of like cemented you on electric guitar?
I don't know. I feel like in that day, like it was very acoustic led,
Oh,
you know,
true.
like Chris Tomlin, Jars of Clay. Love Jars of
Yeah.
Clay.
Yeah.
Um, I loved those bands. It was very acoustic driven. That was like the prominent
True.
like lead. And I don't know. I don't know why I was drawn more towards guitar, but I loved it. I mean, the Beatles, super influential band in my mind. And playing Blackbird was
Oh,
one of
yeah.
my first like finger picking songs. One of the
Oh,
first
that's awesome.
guitar riffs I learned was Day Tripper.
Oh, sweet.
And I just remember fumbling through that for weeks and weeks and weeks. But yeah, I don't know why. I just fell in love with it.
That's awesome. Uh, so what about like in those younger years, did you have any like musicians that were like huge influences on you? Uh,
Yeah, my dad, obviously, just getting to
yeah.
play with him. But the guys in the worship band, Jason and Gary, who I still do work with in a video capacity from time to time,
Nice.
and his daughter is like my oldest friend. She's like my sister. Um, and we still keep in touch. And she moved to Nashville around the same time that we did and
Okay.
still comes over from time to time to hang out with us and with the kiddos and get to hang out. So we're still really close. But yeah, Gary and Jason and Marty, who was the worship leader at the time, really like just having a lot of patience with me trying to keep up with them. It was awesome.
Right. Do you remember the very first time that you got to like play in a church moment, like as far as like a service or anything like that?
No, not like the first one.
Right.
Um, but I remember playing early on and just
Right.
staring at my left hand.
What about like youth? Did you ever play in any of the youth bands or whatever?
Yeah, that's when I think that's when I really, really, really started to like get addicted to the creative opportunities that there were with music. Because it was me, it was my buddy Shane, who's like a brother to me, and my buddy Tommy. Uh, and so it was drums, guitar, bass, and then we kind of rotate through keys players, and we kind of just had free reign to do whatever we wanted to do. That's what it felt like, at least. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, same sort of format. We'd show up and I'd be like, "Oh, let's do this, this, and this." And then it was like, "Let's instead of this, let's do this and change things up and kind of make it our own." And I just loved that freedom. I loved playing with my buddies. I was terrified of singing. I don't even remember how I started like leading worship, but started doing that. And then from there I started leading at the church off and on. And then once I graduated high school, I was the worship leader there for a couple of years before we moved to Nashville. So that was super fun.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I had kind of that's kind of similarly for myself how I got into playing was basically we had a teacher and he invited some of the older youth guys that he knew were playing some instruments and kind of put this band together. And I was on bass for me. And at the time, they were like, "Can you play bass?" I was like, "Well, the only problem is I don't have a bass."
Yeah.
So somebody had donated a bass to the church, and so that was the bass that I started playing on, and actually I still have it, so which
Yep.
is awesome.
Yeah, no, that's how it was for me. I was playing my dad's Ovation, but the electronics were jacked up on it. So I had to use a mic And so I would ask Gary, who I mentioned earlier, if I could use his acoustic guitar. And he's like, "Yeah, anytime I'm not playing, you're more than welcome to use it." So he let me borrow it. And I remember saving up forever. Um, I worked throughout high school, all that stuff too, and had jobs on the weekends and saved up. And when I was 18, I bought a Taylor 414 something. They had I've been saving up for a different model, but at the local music store they had like a road show coming through town of like the Taylor guys, and they
Mm,
had like this fall limited edition all Indian rosewood. It was beautiful, and I played it, and I was like, oh. And they gave me a little bit of a deal on it, but I remember feeling so proud walking out of that music store, like, I had my own guitar. The
right.
electronics work. I could keep it on my knee. Like, I'm taking over the world.
Right.
I just felt yeah, it was awesome. This is like a legit guitar. Um, yeah, I just remember feeling so proud.
And it probably played completely differently too, like
Yeah, between my dad's Ovation and Gary had a Martin.
Oh, wow.
And then
That's
I
not
got a Taylor, which was
yeah.
like and that's it was good though, because my hand
Yeah,
had to kinda learn how to, yeah, how to navigate the different subtleties in necks and, scale lengths, and I still have that guitar. It's super cool to
that's awesome.
have it.
It it's, that is very like you were saying earlier, Jars of Clay era.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah.
Taylors, they love to have those play those Taylors
Yeah,
back
and over
then.
time, I feel like it has kinda gotten darker too with the Indian rosewood. I feel like
True.
Taylors stereotypically have, like, a lighter sound that a lot of
Mhm.
people point out, but this one, because of the age, I mean, it's almost 20 years old, which
That's
sucks to
awesome.
say, but, yeah, it's with the age and just the wood that it is, it's just
Yeah.
kinda aged, like, really nicely at this point. You could start to kinda tell, how the wood's kinda settling in, so it's nice.
That's awesome. So, you said you were there, serving on worship, and then moved to Nashville. How did you? Because I know that you've told me that you have worked with some artists and, toured for a little while. Can you share a little bit about that whole experience and some of the people you toured with and
Like, before moving to Nashville, after moving to Nashville?
or actually did it happen, but during when you were there and then moving here or
No, well, kind of. So, I was in a local band,
Okay.
and we had, like, a little record deal with a label up in Sacramento, and, there was this is before Spotify was really a thing, which was the golden age. There was a really awesome West Coast, um some of them were kind of from all over. We played with a band from Kansas and all this stuff, but I feel like a lot of times we played on the West Coast, and there's like, I don't know, 8 bands that were just out there, like, buddies who just wrote songs and just started playing, and you could, like, really do that. And so that's what we were kinda doing. We were like kinda like the Fray
Okay.
type of music,
Yeah.
and I played guitar in that lead guitar, and my buddy Austin was the lead singer, and we just like written some songs and looped in some of our buddies and started playing, and we're getting some traction and stuff. And along the way, we played with this band called The Current Affair,
Okay.
and the lead singer of that band is Jordan Felice,
Okay.
and they were like our big brother band. That's how we referred to them. And then, super long story, super short. Our band broke up. Surprise, surprise. A Current Affair broke up. Surprise, surprise, as local bands do. Jordan and I kept in touch, and he started doing his own solo thing. He was like, "Dude, can you run merch for me and play guitar?" I was like, "Heck yeah, let's do it." It's like little in town gigs, like
Right.
acoustic nights or whatever. And then he started writing in Nashville and started telling me about it. And I was like, "Dude, that's awesome, man. I'm super pumped for you." And where our hometown is very much like, you don't leave your hometown type thing.
Right.
Like, why would you ever leave? Everything, your family's here, you have job here, like, it's comfortable,
Right.
everything's great here. But I always had this just burning desire of, like, wanting to branch out. So, he was like, "Dude, why don't you come out? Cause he had moved there. He was like, dude, why don't you come out and just see what it's like? And so I flew standby. It took me 24 hours to get out to Nashville.
Whoa.
Cause my other buddy, who was the drummer in the youth band, worked at the airport. And so I could fly for free, but I had to fly standby. So it
Okay.
took me 24 and a half hours to get to Nashville. And my
Wow.
layover in
But it
Chicago,
was free.
but it was free. My layover in Chicago, I flew in at like 1:30 in the morning and the airport had closed. And since I was standby, I didn't have a ticket for another flight. So they kicked my check bag out. I had to get my check bag from baggage claim.
Oh, no.
So I was just out of security and for the night. And so I slept literally outside on a bench with my legs through my suitcase and my backpack
My
like through my
goodness.
arms. Uh, and I remember like barely getting any sleep. It was pretty cold. It wasn't too bad, but it was like pretty cold. And I remember waking up a couple times and like cops would be running by and I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's just like hugging onto my stuff.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I moved out there and then Jordan, I had written a song that kind of blew up. It didn't kind of blew up, it really blew up. And he kind of had the opportunity to build out a band. And so him and his manager hit me up and was like, dude, do you want to play guitar? I was like, yeah, that's the dream.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I kind of skipped some stuff, but after that initial trip where I flew standby, talked my wife into my then girlfriend. I was like, "Hey, do you want to get married and move away from everybody?" She was
From the
like,
city you're not supposed to move from.
"Exactly." She was like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's think about it." And so I don't know how she let me. I don't know how anybody let me. I don't know how my life is really a thing. But yeah, we moved out and we moved 30 days after our wedding and sold everything that didn't fit in my Honda Element, which those
Wow.
cars rock.
I know, right?
But included in that, in the car, which was we only brought what we could fit in there, was my 212 110-watt Dr. Z combo prescription, which that's a massive amp, which
Oh
took
my
up
goodness.
like a third of our car.
But, all this other important stuff, it's gotta
Like
we have to sell it all.
who let me do this? I just don't know how.
No, what that, shows is how amazing that your wife is.
Oh,
Right?
amazing. Amazing.
Uh,
Never for a second have I doubted her being in my life
right.
because I'm just like, goodness
Yeah.
gracious. Uh, yeah, I mean, that amp was it was our coffee table. It was our dining room table for a while. We had air mattress for like the first year and a half. She didn't have a job. I had a part-time job at Starbucks lined up. We only knew Jordan, his wife, and and our buddy David. We only knew 3 people in town.
What year was that you moved here?
Team,
Okay.
yeah. And we lived in Nippers Corner,
Okay. Yeah.
and I worked at the Starbucks on Franklin Road.
Oh, wow.
And we only had the one car, and so there was a time where she was working at a preschool in Cool Springs, and I had to walk. It was like 4.2 miles or something to work and back. And then there was one time, uh, 2 times actually, where we had like the ice apocalypse in like
Oh.
2015, I
Mhm.
think, and I walked that like while it was all snowy. And I walked. It was like the old saying,
Yeah.
back in, I walked uphill both ways to school.
Right.
It was not good. But anyway, yeah, when we first moved to town, it was pretty much like just make money and try to stay out here.
You're
My wife
right.
had told me she wanted to wait a year and if nothing happened, move back. And 1 year, you know, went into 2, and then I started playing with Jordan and things started to pick up and we started getting roots down in here in Nashville and we're here almost 12 years later.
That's awesome. I love that. I have a very similar situation when So when we first moved here, I had a job. My wife didn't, and we only had one vehicle. And it was the same kind of situation where she would drop me off at work on her way to work. And then when I would get done, I would walk. And so, where Nashville Electric is downtown, I would walk all the way to like almost I forgot what hospital it is, but it's almost to like where the Parthenon is
Yeah.
from there all the way to get to the car. And then,
Dude,
so
you want to hear what's crazy? Is we might have been walking blocks from each other during the same time because I I valeted. Jordan was a valet before he
okay.
really kicked off, and so he got me a job as a valet. So I worked at Starbucks part time and as a valet downtown. And
Okay.
and with the one car, we would get off our shift at like 2:30 in the morning sometimes, depending on what restaurants we were at. And my wife would wake up, come down, pick me up, and like go back.
Yeah.
But I would walk from one restaurant that was really slow because I had just started, and Jordan was working at like a really nice restaurant where he knew, he's a man, dude, you could actually make some money here. And so he'd call me like, bro, if you can run over here, I'm about to park a ton of cars in like 30 minutes. So I'd be running from one restaurant
Oh
like
my goodness.
across downtown to get to the other restaurant in town to like make some money. So he was looking out for me for since day one.
That's amazing. Uh, so is that Jordan's basically the one that you were touring with the longest, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh, so like talk about like um, he's so now you're going out on tour with him. Like how did you like prepare for a tour yourself? Like as far as, like music and getting ready for that and just also family stuff. How did you all prepare for that?
Um, I mean, it's changed a lot, over the different stages. Early on, preparing for a show was just like, you know, practicing as much as you could before you left type thing.
Right.
Uh, but but preparing for a gig like later on in my musical career was definitely just like time and time and time and time again. We would have, you know, 3 12-hour, 16-hour rehearsal days in a row before we left for a tour. And and that was after we had been practicing those songs for, weeks. We used to say, I used to think of it like you don't practice until you could play it right. You practice until you can't play it wrong.
Hmm.
And especially over the years, as we did the same songs, but a bunch of different versions of them over the years,
Yeah.
there would be times where my brain would be so fried from just traveling, and we'd
Sure.
we'd be coming up on a section that, that's the section that had changed a lot. And I remember looking down at my hands and being like, "Guys, I don't know what's coming up right now. Like, you're just gonna have to do it." And I
Right.
literally told my hands that in my head. I'm like, "I don't
Yeah.
know what to play." And so I closed my eyes and put my head up, and I just got cues from the band of like, "Oh yeah, it's this version," like, split second before,
Right.
and my hands did the rest. So it's just, just practicing, really learning how to practice and studying how to practice and putting in the time. And it's just muscle memory and just really dedicating that time. And once, my wife and I had our first kid, it was, rough trying to balance that. But I found a lot of time to practice after we put him down for bed.
Yeah.
Because then I could get another, 4 hours in before midnight and, still go to sleep and still wake up at a decent time. And just really putting the time in. And then also during rehearsal, having like a plan for what you're going to hit during rehearsal, having different benchmarks of like, okay, we're going to get through these songs in this 2 hour block. And then we're going to get through these songs in this 2 hour block. And there was a lot of times where I would stay late after a 16-hour day. I would stay for another 2 hours because during the day I had written notes of patch changes I need to program in my
Yeah.
board, and tone changes that I needed to adjust for. Um, and so the guys would leave and I'd be there for 2 hours, 2 more hours, making sure that I had everything prepped for the next day of practice. Cause I didn't want them to be waiting on me. And I wanted us to be able to practice as close to how it was going to be when we were
Right.
playing a show as possible. So just really putting in the work.
Well, uh, I know you kind of obviously we'll get into kind of like your gear a little more extensively in a minute, but I know one thing you had talked to me about was the transformation of how from when you first started playing to later, how much more things changed just like with what's the word I'm looking for, like just tech, like where like you were talking about getting everything locked in with your board where you could basically have your board connect MIDI wise to where you almost didn't even have to touch it. It would change for the songs, it would change at the parts, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. In the beginning, I was just toe tapping McGee, like, we all were with just a spaceship pedal board and,
Right.
humming away in all the quiet parts of the songs and all that stuff, which is great. I have so many fond memories of just tone hunting and soldering my own cables and, every issue that would come up, just diving down into how to mitigate that. And yeah, I loved it so much. But then yeah, trying to figure out how to perform, how to not just stand still while you're playing, how to engage with the audience, how to sing a harmony while you're playing a syncopated, guitar riff, and switching pedals at the same time. It just became
Yeah.
a lot. And so I was like, all right, how can I do this? And I started looking at, what were they called? It's those MIDI. I have them in my closet and I have to look for it. Uh, Something disaster area
Okay, yeah.
designs. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
I think so. They made those really sick MIDI boxes. They had made a bunch of
Yeah.
different kinds of them.
I think they still make some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a timeline, which to change the banks on the timelines, there's 3 buttons on them. You had to push like the right 2 at the same time to go up in the bank and the left 2 at the same time to go
Mm,
down in the banks. And so that was really hard because if you just hit one or then the other or whatever it is, then it would change, your tap tempo or it would change some other parameter. I forgot what the buttons were. But I was like, all right, that's an issue that I have. And then also to be able to make a really dynamic change in your tone from, a verse to chorus or from chorus to like a solo section, you had an instant to hit, to turn on your compressor, to turn on this fuzz, to hit this boost pedal, to turn off your delay, to do all this stuff in a split second. And so, yeah, I just remember trying to figure that out and got a system down with the MIDI controller that I got. And that was like a complete game changer. Um, I played that for years. And then I had, the big old fancy boutique pedals, boutique power supply. Um, I was using the Gig Rigs power supply. They're based out of Australia and they were really, really big at the time. And we were playing a show on Huntington Beach, on the beach, Southern California. And my power supply died, like the main brick part of it completely died. And so I was looking around and it has such a specific, you know, uh, like wattage or whatever that
yeah.
I couldn't just go pick it up. And we had, 2 hours before our set. So it's like, I don't know what to do. Like, let me go to Guitar Center. Do you guys have this? All these things. So I went to Guitar Center and I got the Voodoo Pedal Power Plus, um, which had, I think, 6 inputs for that. It could power 6 pedals, and I had like 13 pedals. So this is 2 hours before the show, out in the middle of a sandy parking lot in the sun.
Right.
and I'm my pedal board's ripped apart, and I'm trying to figure out which pedals to power. And I couldn't do it because there were pretty specific tone things that I had to
Yeah.
hit. So I remember writing down on my set list what pedals I was gonna unpower and plug in
Wow.
because they had a through, like a true through, even if it didn't have power. And remembering like when to switch that for different songs. And it was just like
Oh my
just so
goodness.
stressful. So from then on, I made the rule in my head as I was like, I'm only gonna have stuff that I could buy at Guitar Center, or I'm gonna have
Mm.
two of them. That way, if one goes out, I have one
Right,
right there. Like
backup.
I should
Yeah.
have had another one. So that's when I became uh, the contingency king, as I was known.
Nice.
Um, and I was the consolidation king too. Some of my buddies will laugh at me for saying that. But yeah, just having it, bulletproof. It's
Yeah,
my job to to show up and be able to play. Like no excuses. It doesn't matter. Like you have to be able to play. And that's the side of touring that I feel like people don't really understand. Um, is how serious like us musicians take it when we're touring, and the responsibility that we have to the artists and all my buddies, and their families, and my buddy's, career and his relationship with the promoter. Like it all, me not being prepared has an effect on that.
sure.
And,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where I started to be okay with cutting some corners in the tone world.
Okay.
Um,
Simplifying, trying
s-
to, yeah.
Simplifying, and with it, with me having something that's more bulletproof and something that I could swap out if I needed to. Kempers were really big at the time, but I loved my amps so much. Moving air is just the it's just, to me, that just makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And
As
I
a
never
bass
had,
player, I completely understand that.
yeah, like just physically, it's
Yeah.
that's the key part of the tone chain. And I feel like I never had an issue with my amps. I had some issue with some backline amps from time to time, but I got really specific as to what my amps were um, for backline. So I ran into less issues with that. Um, and then my pedal board was the only issue. So I was like, okay, cool. I think I'm good with keeping my amps. So I don't, the Kemper didn't really appeal to me. And the Helix had just come out. And I was like, this is cool. It has a volume pedal in it. And then you could
Right.
also program the volume pedal as a control for any parameter that you choose. So I was like, this is sick. And you could also do MIDI control. And at that time, we were on, full tracks, SMPTE,
Right.
the whole thing.
Ableton, yeah.
Yeah. And so I talked to our tracks guy, who's our keyboard player. His name's Marcus. He's insane. He's so good. Uh, And I was like, dude, would we be able to like map my changes? He's like, yeah. He goes, I'll show you how, and then we'll just, I could hand you the tracks thing, and we can get it done. So he kind of helped me through the first little bit, and then as we added songs to the set list and rearranged things and changed things, like I would just be able to take that computer in the back lounge and like make any adjustments that I needed to. And man, it was wild to get used to in the beginning. It was so scary, but it freed me up to be, if we were playing in like
Yeah.
an arena or something on a big tour, I could be across the stage
Right.
at a transition point, and it would be fine,
Yeah.
I could make it off to the, the stage right catwalk and be on there for the top of my solo, as opposed to having to stay at my pedal board. Solo starts, so I hit, and then I start walking out there just in
Right.
time for me to like have to run back. Like
That's
yeah,
funny.
it was so ridiculous. So it's super freeing. And then there's a part where, just because I was having fun with it, there's a part in the song, a big, big build. And I was like, man, I'm gonna use a pitch wham here. So there's a part in the song where like my volume pedal switches to a pitch wham, and I go where up an octave, and then it switches off back to a volume pedal. And
Wow.
and that was just like super cool to see the possibilities
Yeah.
of everything. And the tone didn't sound, as good or as pure
Sure.
as it did with a pedal board, but with the tracks, with 1,000 things that are going on in a live performance, and with how bulletproof it was, I had a backup of it on a thumb drive, and if it went down, I could go to any Guitar Center and give me 30 minutes, and I'll be 100% ready to go with the MIDI capability too. And then we also had I had a duplicate set list, on the Helix that had, uh, amp modelers on it,
Okay.
and then on Ableton, we had 2 different tracks. So I had one track that was mapping to the set list without the amp modeling, and then we had an "uh-oh" track, which was if my amps ever went down, I could take the cables that were plugged into the microphones at the amp and just plug it straight into the board, and then our tracks guy would just switch the channels, and then it would call, so nothing would skip a beat. The tone would be, for the most part, pretty similar,
Sure.
and that way we were just ready for any sort of problem that came up.
That's awesome. That's that's definitely, bulletproofing.
Yeah, you have
Uh,
to.
yeah, because I can't imagine once you've been through the stressful part, then after that, you're like, "No, never again do I wanna be through," and I've had some situations like that too, and, I know you and I even talked about, uh, serving together on a Sunday, have talked about like, because I remember one Sunday I was having some issue with one of my cables, and you were like, "Dude, that's why I went to this, is because there's just a cable from my guitar into the pedal board, and that is it."
And I have, like, 3 of those cables just in case
Right,
that cable goes down,
exactly,
like,
yeah,
just contingencies for any sort of issue. Yeah.
yep,
It
exactly.
stinks, we always
I
we
know,
have the idea of, like, how good everything sounds when, it's us in front of our amp and, like, "Man, this is perfect,"
yeah,
but, yeah, sometimes you just have to make sacrifices of, like, "This sounds 10% not as
right,
good, but it's 100% bulletproof," like,
yeah.
I'm choosing that every time.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, do you have any, like do you have any memories, like a memorable moment from the road, like maybe a venue that was really cool that you played at, or just a show that kinda sticks out?
I mean, yeah, my, like, top memories looking back now are just, like, of the back lounge, of, uh of sound check. The first 5-10 minutes of sound check was just jam time for us,
Nice.
just to, like, feel us out. Either, one of us would just start playing something, and then we'd all just kinda, like, file in, and, I loved that. We did we would record towards the end of me touring. We had recorded our we would record our set every night from front of house mix.
Oh,
And the
okay.
first thing in the morning we would do after coffee, first thing in the morning we would do, was to listen down to the whole set. And after each song, we would stop and talk about, like, any moments that we needed to. And just, like, really diving in, really being intentional about, why are you playing that? Like, what are you playing? What is he playing? And that would be the time for, like, those conversations of, like, "Hey, that solo on this song, like, are you good? Like, you got it? Or, like, do we need to adjust the part? Or are you gonna put in the time to get it to nail it? Because it's a little sloppy."
Right.
And for us just to be super analytical with everything and be like, "Yeah, like, I need to tighten that up," and, be held accountable. That to me is where, like, it was just a whole 'nother level of what being a musician is, that I had no idea that even existed. So, that to me was super memorable, just and I really enjoyed that process too. It was very challenging. Um, a musician, nobody likes to be told,
Sure.
"You need to
Yeah.
get better," but man, it's just like, it's so awesome. We played at the Forum, which was a big bucket list venue. They were building SoFi Stadium right across the
Mm,
street, so getting to see that kinda in its phase of being built,
yeah.
um, that was super cool. Playing Red Rocks is super cool. We had some issues with just different things during the set. That was kind of a whole thing, but just being
Oh,
in that venue was a whole,
yeah.
was just a dream, like the rocks, like
Yeah.
just everything sings and reverberates in the most beautiful way. Just such an iconic venue. And then I just remember the shows. Like I played a bunch of stuff in my time, my brief time playing in country music
Yeah.
that was just like small little clubs, where everybody was just like in it. Um, Everybody was just in to participate, to have a great time together. And it wasn't like we came to watch you guys do your thing. It's like we came
Right.
to like hang out.
Yeah.
And those are the moments for me that was just like so fun. Um, and then all the uh-ohs. All the uh-ohs are so funny.
Yeah.
Like snare drum falling over, or
No.
I fell off a sub one time,
Whoa.
um, in the middle of a song because it was on casters and they didn't lock. And so there was like 4 subs that were like 8 feet tall, and I took a step from one to the other, and then it drifted apart, and then I went to put my other foot down and
No.
caught myself. Um, there was video of that. That was pretty hilarious. Yeah, but all those uh-ohs is just
Yeah. Did you
fun.
ever get a chance to, like, while you were out on tour, like, play somewhere near your, like, hometown at all? What
Yeah,
was
we
that like?
yeah, we played Save Mart Center, which is like the big arena, in town. And I grew up, that was like it, that was the venue. And and yeah, getting to play that for the first time. I think we played it 2 or 3 times. I could be, yeah, at least twice, maybe 3 times. But it's just so special, it's such a cool thing. And just what it meant for my family to see, like, he left, did all these things that
Sure.
we thought was like reckless, and at least something's seems like
Yeah.
it's working out okay,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, talking about your preparation time for tour, like, so now you're, uh since you're just doing the, video stuff, transitioned into that full time, and now that most of your playing is just on a Sunday morning serving, uh, so when you're serving on a Sunday morning, how do you prepare, like, for that? Because, obviously it's completely different because, we'll get the songs maybe about a week out. They'll be locked. Well, the song will be locked in, maybe not the keys, maybe not till like the Wednesday before, but
Yeah,
you know,
if we're lucky.
yeah. Like, how do you prepare for that for a Sunday morning?
Man, I feel like just with worship music in general, I still haven't found my center. Um, my instincts have just been tuned for just something different, And so I'm still trying to figure out worship music. Um, it just as like as a demographic of
Sure.
music. Uh, but yeah, preparation, it's the most important part, the most fundamental part of preparation for me is just to get the songs in my head, because a lot of them I've never heard before. And so
Right.
just to understand what at least the recording is doing, um, and then to hear what the different vocalists are doing. So to kind of have a radar up for that, um, and just understanding how what I'm playing corresponds, or might play with or step on the toes of a vocal line or of a synth line. There's so much going on with worship music, and it could get messy really really quick. And so for me, it's just kind of really understanding what the song is doing, um, and trying to come to rehearsal with at least a few different ideas of what I want to do. I come with kind of like three different tiers of like I can kind of hang on this for the whole song and be totally fine. And then the second tier is like I'm going to branch out on these, kind of places. And then my third tier is like, all right, this is what I'm doing here. This is what I'm doing here. I'm going to rip this here. And then I'm doing this for the outro. Um, just kind of prepared because things change so much from the reference that we're
True.
sent. And then the day of, like, you just never know. There's so many different variables with playing on like a worship team.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that you're the only guitarist for this particular Sunday. And so if you only prepare rhythm, then there may be some lead hooks that are needed in there, all that kind of stuff. It definitely is. And even for bass, it's a preparing for Sunday by learning, but then also having that ability to uh like expand out from that of
Yeah.
as to what the band is trying to do as a whole.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing. My instincts are like were screaming the first couple of times I played on the worship team because I'm like, there's so much to take in because I'm
Yeah,
so used to literally listening to what is the hi hat doing on the back half of verse two, and then you
right.
get into worship music and it's like it just felt like everything all at once. It was such a shock, and I'm like, I'm supposed to find a place to play in this, like
Right.
sonically speaking, I could not play and it would be just as impactful. So my uh what I've tried to learn with maturity in music is to figure out, you know, how little to play. Like what's the smallest amount that I could add to this, and that's probably what I need to be playing. In the little bit of session work that I've done, in the little bit of gigs on Broadway that I've done and just kind of fill in stuff, hired gun. You just show up like, what can I add to the song? Sometimes adding to the song is not playing. And
Right.
um and also just like listening to what the other parts are doing, like understanding where, your sonic home base is, and knowing where the other people's sonic space is, and knowing when you're crossing, and knowing how to do that well and when to do that well. And it's just, yeah, yeah,
Well, speaking of the sonic spaces, one thing that when I've brought on some of the people that are obviously not uh that don't play bass, I always like to get kind of because the best way I can describe this is kind of like how we listen to music as musicians. Uh, like my wife does not listen to music in the same way that I do, like the things that I'm listening for in that music. And so, like, where your ear may be drawn maybe to the guitar first or drawn to, like, like you said, what is the snare doing? What is this, those things. Like when you're playing with bass like on a Sunday morning and you're also trying to find your sonic space, like can you give kind of like what you're listening for bass, like say tone wise, and then just what for them to like, not saying you need to do this as your job, but just kind of like what you like to hear from bass is what I
yeah.
would.
What I I don't know. It changes like from song to song, from moment to moment. Um, I've been fortunate to tour with some like unbelievable, unbelievable bass players. Goodness gracious, that inspire, riffs that I have that I'll play off of in the moment. And so I don't like when they just play like the root. Um, I but also at the same time, bass is one of those instruments that can get very busy a lot of the time, and it could be cool, But again, like, is it chops just for chop's sake? Like, what
Right.
is it adding to the song? I always love when bass grabs the harmony on a
Right.
part. Love that. I love when bass spends some time up a little bit higher on the neck. Uh, but I also, I'm super sensitive to when the bass has to stay low and has to stay driving. For me, it's just like it's a tempo thing for the basses when I really get
Sure.
like, it's making sure you're locked into the kick. Like I can tell when a bass player is not listening to the kick.
Right.
Um, and just really being in sync with that and also not listening to the vocalist too. Like they need to be hearing the cadence of what the vocal is doing. Um, yeah, for me, really big on like the tempo of it, not rushing, being behind the beat, just a hair, like tastefully behind the beat, and finding those moments to add movement where no other instrument can really do it like the bass
Right.
can.
Yeah. That's like you said, listening to the cadence to the vocal. That's something that I've always kind of done is because there are certain parts where a vocalist might sing a part the first time in a low key, but then the second time they might sing it in a higher part, they're like building that tension and going up. And that's where so instead of just staying on that low A, that's when I might slide up to that high A at the same time that you know, just little things like that you can, when you are listening to what they're doing, that you can just kind of add those little things that builds the tension, build and helps to build the song, you know?
Yeah, that's yeah, like building like playing off the dynamics and yeah, finding the moments where a lot of times in worship music, you're building for like an hour and a half before
Yeah, it's
you know,
true.
you hit
Yeah,
that
and
part. And so you're not going to hold that low B
I
forever.
know.
So it's like, what else can you do? Like add
Exactly.
to the tension. What other notes
Yeah.
can you play off that? But like
Mhm.
everybody else has to hold, but just you shifting,
Yeah.
just everybody goes, whoa, like it just adds that drama to it. Like has such a special place uh in the band, like sonically. I've always been kind of jealous because I feel like you guys have the widest platform to kind of move around and do what you need to because there's
Right.
nobody else really in that lane. Guitars, we have, you know, keyboards and synths, pianos, vocalists, the other 8 guitar players. Um,
Acoustic guitars, like
Everything is in kind of that space. And so you have to be really careful. Um, and you're a lot of times I feel like I'm locked in where it's like I have ideas of cool stuff to do, but again, is it adding? What is it adding to what part? Like, be specific as to what you think is adding to the song.
well, one of the
Yeah,
cool things that from an outward perspective of seeing like you and whoever else might be playing guitar too, like I always really enjoy the standing there and hearing the communication between the two of y'all, like when you're and you're like, "Hey, are you doing this here? Okay, well, I'm going to do this." And it's like that. So that way, neither one of you are walking on top of each other, but it's that communication of trying to find those spaces, you know?
yeah, yeah. You have to work as a team, and also talking to your front of house guy is
Mm,
key. A lot of times, like you can't tell like at like playing, and I feel like on Sundays, that's one thing that I wish that we did more of was actually
yeah, like
talk
feedback.
talk to the front of house guy. Like, you give us specifics as to what worked, what doesn't work, what sounds a little messy, because
Yeah,
they're the ones that are hearing it all put together. We hear it with our in ears, but that's drastically different from what they're feeling in the room.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, and two, I think even like tone wise, if instead of them having to go crazy with EQing and everything, if they just say, "Hey, can you give me more of this or more of that?" It's not going to hurt my feelings if they're asking for more of this or less of this or whatever. So like I even had one time I it was Julio was run I was on a Wednesday night and he was like, "Hey, do you think you could just give me more overdrive?" I was like, "Yeah." of course.
Yeah,
That's the kind of I agree with you. I like that, kind of feedback when you can get it from front of house for sure.
you have to. I would talk to our front of house guy almost, yeah, every single show. We got to a point to where I knew what he was going to ask for, um, depending on what kind of venue we were playing at, um, based off of what the roof was and how
Mm,
the rafters were was the biggest deal of like
yeah,
where I needed to sit my verbs and my delays. Um, But I would always touch base with him, like, "How's everything sound?" He was a musician with us on stage. He would just pipe through our in-ears, you know? He was as important as getting feedback from our music director, our MD,
right.
or feedback from the artist himself. Like, that's where everything kinda comes together, and, like, why wouldn't you take advantage of everybody that you can?
Yeah,
The point is for all of us to make the best sounding set or the most impactful song that we can. And, and that's a huge, perspective to not tap into, you know?
yeah.
Like I would get upset if I found out that they were compensating for something. It's like, "No,
Right.
you should have asked me. Like,
Yeah,
it's my
tell me.
job to
Yeah,
listen to you," you know?
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that one for sure.
I know all the
Uh,
front of house guys are like, "Yeah,
right.
finally, finally."
What would you say is probably the biggest lesson, that you've learned from serving on a worship team, like on Sunday mornings?
Um, Man, I feel like it's been said, but just like God's gonna do it's his set, you know. Come with options and and offerings and just be like, I'm gonna play this and and just hang on. Just be open and sensitive to what he's doing because sometimes he's gonna be moving and it's gonna have nothing to do with what you guys are doing. And that's totally
Right.
fine.
Yes.
Um I remember we were playing a song. I guess this would be one of the most memorable moments. But we were playing a song called "Beloved," Jordan Felice, and very worship anthem sort of thing, ballad anthem. And we get to the end of the the bridge, and it's building into this big chorus at the end. And throughout the song, I saw this dad, probably in like his 50s, and his daughter was like teenager age, and they were kind of standing, not really interacting with each other. It kind of looked like he like forced her to come to this concert with him. And during Beloved, I I saw him kind of progress throughout our set. And during Beloved, I saw him have his arm around his daughter and his eyes were closed, his hand was up, and he was just crying and singing like over his daughter, hugging his daughter. And she was kinda standing there too cool for school the whole set, and I saw this moment where she was standing there watching us, and she kind of, like, realizes that his hand's on her shoulder, and she looks up at him and sees, like, the emotion on his face being
Yeah.
there with her, and she by the end of the song, because I wasn't just staring at him the whole time, I had to stop because I was starting to cry watching this moment. And by the end of the song, she had her hands raised and her arm, they were both standing there together, like worshiping. And I believe that that could have happened without any of us
Right.
being there, without any of the preparation that we did. But I felt like proud of my contribution to that moment
Yeah.
because of all the prep that we had done, because of all the intentionality of making sure, like you're saying, like we're building the tension, the dynamics flow, everything's musically interesting. Like we are doing everything that we can to make the set impactful. Um, I toured with name drop. I toured with Keith Urban as his videographer, photographer for
Yes.
about 2 years.
I was hoping you would name drop it because I think it's cool. So
It's cool. a lot of people get confused. I'm like, no, I didn't play with him. That was after. I know my
Yeah.
story's kind of confusing, but
That's why I was bringing up the photography stuff and video stuff, is because I
yeah.
was hoping, without forcing you to to bring
Well,
it
there you
up,
go.
I'm like, before this podcast ends, I'm going to
Yeah.
make him talk about it.
Right as it's ending, Keith Urban.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah. No, but I learned a lot from him
Mm.
as a musician, getting to watch him sound check and rehearse. And, I got to be there, while they were prepping for tour in their like little private rehearsal uh, shack that they were in, and getting to hear them converse and collaborate, and then get to seeing him live on show, like date after day after day. And it was so cool because if you go to see Keith play, which you should, because I was obsessed with him before, just as a guitar player. He has the best sounding hands in the business. His ears are like crazy.
Killer bass player too.
Killer bass player,
I've seen him play.
dude. One of my favorite moments of his set is this like harmony that they do. Oh, it's beautiful. I have it on my phone. I'll have to send it to you when I track it down.
Yeah.
But if you go to see Keith play, he's never not smiling. He's just like, moving his shoulders, just being Keith, he's just like floating down a river, and you're like, man, this guy's awesome. Like nothing could get him down. But if you hear him during rehearsal and during sound check, he's very specific. He's very regimented. Like, no, this isn't feeling right. Let's rehearse this transition for an hour and a half because it's not feeling right. And he will be very meticulous about it. But then on stage, again, he's just
Right.
and he'll mess up, and the band might mess up, and things might not go right, but he just smiles and like shakes his shoulder through it, because I think it's because he knows that he's put in the time to
Right.
make that work, or to prep for that show, and then whatever happens on stage is going to happen on stage. And if he does mess up, it's not because he didn't practice enough. It's because, you know what, dude, he's human, and I don't know, his hands might have gotten sweaty,
Yeah.
or he was trying to perform and interact with somebody in the crowd, and slipped one fret too far,
Right.
whatever it is. And so I honestly think about Keith a lot when I play on Sundays. It's like, man, I'm gonna prep, I'm gonna come prepared, but then whatever happens on Sunday, like you just have
Yeah.
to run with your head up and keep your eyes
Mhm.
open and listen to your teammates and figure out like, where is this going? Um, and that's just the exciting part about music, and then also playing in a worship band in general. It's just that like unknown.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's a great story. And it's great too, because I think that for anybody out there, understanding there are going to be times when we're going to make mistakes. It's just going to happen. And it's kind of in my earlier years, I'm a bit of a perfectionist anyway, but I used to hold on to those so hard and could not let it go. And I finally just, you know, uh, if I make a mistake now, you're probably going to see me laughing, because that's how I've got to the point now to where I finally been able to, let that go, let that side of that go. So, uh, but I think it's cool to hear that sometimes, because even people at the highest level like that, can end up having the oopsies too. So,
Yeah. I remember my MD was he saw that I was struggling with the concept of us all listening to our set from the night before, and I would get very visibly distraught when I made a mistake, because I knew the next morning everybody was going to hear
who's
that
gonna
part.
hear it?
And he was like, "Dude, have you heard John Mayer perform at Pinkberry Festival? I think it's Pinkberry Festival. I might be wrong festival, maybe, but I love John Mayer. He's one of my guitar heroes, but that performance was rough. It was it's rough. And he sent it to me and I watched it and it helped me kind of like relax a little bit cuz like John Mayer, my guitar idol, is a human.
Exactly. He's not a robot after all.
Yeah. He might have had relationship stuff that was on his mind,
Sure.
logistic stuff. He might have been sick. He might have been whatever emotional baggage he walked on stage with had an effect on his playing. And we know on a perfect day, he is more than capable to perform at an excellent level. And, um, and even people like John mess up. So it was just like, man, I'm going to put in the time. And I needed a lot more time than the other guys that I played with. They were all towards the later rotations of band members. They were all very highly skilled,
Mm.
highly trained killers, assassins. And I was just a kid who just like learned by ear, you know,
Right.
from my dad's worship band back in the day. You know, that's
Same.
that I just kept going and nobody said I
Yeah.
couldn't do it anymore. And so it's just learning how to like I needed more time than they did to get these parts down.
Right.
But I was okay with that. I was like, I'm gonna do it. And then on stage, it's like, yeah, sometimes they flubbed and sometimes I flubbed. And it's like we didn't always point out all the flubs in those morning meetings because we knew that like that flub wasn't because you didn't rehearse. It wasn't because you didn't know the part. Like if you mess up on the same spot a couple nights in a row, let's make sure that you have that down. Like
Right.
let's dedicate a little bit more time to ironing that spot out. But if there's any mess ups in the moment, you just kind of have to laugh it off.
Right.
We were playing this festival and I had this I could send you to. I have this festival. We were playing this festival and the label was there and they were like critiquing the show, right? We play the set, nerves are kind of high, but we're making it through all these songs, all these difficult sections. And I'm like, let's go. Like we made like we're out, you know, we're out of the
Yeah.
tunnel of the wave, coming out into the song is a solo, and I'm feeling good. I'm just flow state, you know, nothing is impossible today. And we end the song and it ends with these hits and then like a choke at the end. It's like dun, dun, and we go dun, dun, and when I stopped, it must have caught on like the smallest little piece of my nail and it was da na 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 pump 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 pump. The reverb. End of the set. There's no making up. There's no transition. It's the crowd
Oh.
screaming, and it's just flop, flop, flop.
That's the
And
thing about guitarists. You make a mistake and you guys have reverb that just
somewhere in the universe, you could still hear my guitar ringing. But our front of house guy, Quentin Kelly, gets on, and he just is J Lab, I can't believe you did that. And I was so defeated. I was so defeated. There's no positive ending to that story. That
no.
is just the story. I just felt so. Sometimes it just happens, though. You
It's
know,
great
like
that now you can look back and laugh at it.
yeah. I cherish that voice memo so much. Yeah, and I'm glad we recorded it that night because, oh, it was
That's
painful.
funny. Well, this is one of the parts of the podcast that everybody loves. We dive into some gear talk a little bit. Can you talk about? I know you obviously you talked about your Taylor acoustics you have, but talk a little bit about the electrics you play, and then like the pedal board that you're currently using.
Yeah, I'm a little rusty and hazy on gear stuff these days, but my tried and true main run was or is my Veritas Portlander. Shout out Veritas Guitars. Casey's amazing. I also have a Texas Miracle from them. Some of the best sounding single coil telly pickups in the world. They're phenomenal. I've also played a semi hollow Fender telly. I love tellies. Tellies are one of my favorites. I've played Strats before. my buddy Joe Hemphill at Hemphill Guitars made me a guitar when I first moved to town. That's an incredibly special guitar to me. Uh, Sounds amazing. It's got some McNellys in it. Uh, it's just a beautiful guitar. A big fan of Bigsby's on guitars.
Yeah.
Um, and I loved playing single coils. So that's
So
kind of
what the white one is the which one is
that's
the
the
model?
Veritas Portlander.
Okay. So what does that one kind of resemble as far as say in the Fender world, like as far as
Um,
pickups and
man, it's just humbuckers. Casey and everybody, the Veritas hand winds their own pickups.
nice.
Um, so man, he would be able to give you a
Oh,
much more
okay.
articulate comparison. Um, I don't really know.
It's not P90s, right? That's not
No,
those are the like
no.
humbuckers. Okay.
Walter at church, I think he plays one of the Veritas's with P90s. I could be
Okay.
mistaken. But yeah, and that's a little bit more like Fender Thunderbird, or Thunderbird's a bass, the Explorer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not quite like a Les Paul sound,
Okay. Yeah.
but it's kind of more in that vein.
Right.
Um, I love
And
it.
then you have a silver, that's the other one, right? The
Yeah,
silver
the
s
Texas Miracle.
and
Yeah,
that one isn't it more kind of telly-ish
yeah, just like
style?
straight up his version of a Telly, and
Okay, cool.
it's legit. I love it so much. The neck is awesome. Um, I like it. I like a roomy neck. I've got like these weird hands that are like, I feel like I have a very big palm and very average
Okay.
sized fingers. So, so if I have too small of a neck, my hand can't really,
Yeah.
manipulate over the frets quite as easily. Um, so I
Were
like a
those the
nice big
2,
neck.
like, main guitars that you used on tour? Were
Yep.
those
Yep.
nice.
When I could bring two, yeah, and I've brought up to like 5 guitars on stage with me at a time before it gets kinda crazy, but
Well, having different tunings can make a huge difference, you know?
yeah, different tunings, and then, when I played in country for a little bit, I played for an artist named Nico Moon, filling in for my buddy Jared, and, they have some amazing guitars, got to play this, like, banjo guitar
Mm,
thing that was awesome.
that's
Super fun
awesome.
to play, and just a bunch of other kind of weird different guitars. Um, I like to keep things simple and repeatable, so I'm not like a big, give me a whole vault of guitars.
Right.
I never had money for lots of guitars,
Sure.
and if I had money, it was enough to buy a pedal. So I was really into pedals, and I just kept the same guitar and swapped out pedals. But yeah, amp wise, my Dr. Z prescription that might be my favorite amp ever. Um,
Nice.
I played a Fender Deluxe Reverb for a long time. That was one of my go-to backline amps, and one of the Vox AC30s, uh, but the ones made within a certain year. I forgot uh, the like the barcode number on the back,
Okay.
but I had written down on my writer like the specific year and breakdown of like what Fenders, because you could line up 9, AC30s right next to each other, and you'll have 9 different sounding amps. So I had a list of amps, and then I had a list of speakers that were fine, green blacks, Alnico blues, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Um, and then I have my Benson amps, Earhart, that
Nice.
was one of my main ones. One of my main heads. I have a Benson 212 cab that's wired separately. So it's one cab, but 2 different. Yeah, I could run them with the same amp going through both cones, or I could run them separately.
Okay.
So I had 2 different amps going on stage, and then Chris over at Benson um, put in a little bit wider of a spread on the cases and an extra bracing in the back to help keep the sound separate and isolated a
Interesting.
little bit more. Um, so I love playing that thing. Even when I was playing the Helix, like I said, I was still playing real amps.
Yeah. That's one thing I'm sure
Yeah.
you miss on Sunday mornings, right?
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I would bring my amp in a heartbeat. I would bring
Yeah.
my amp in a heartbeat. That's my one qualm with playing on Sundays.
Right.
It feels
Yeah.
great in the house. The in-ears is like
Yeah.
I get no
I
vibe.
know.
I don't know what anything
Yeah.
sounds like. It's like paint with a blindfold on. That's what I feel like. I guess I'll
Uh,
throw something up
yeah.
there, but I can't hear the context
Yeah.
of how
And
this is coming
even more
across.
for bass, it's like,
Yeah.
uh, only when I hit, like, say, an A or a
Yeah.
G that I can actually feel it back where I'm at, and I'm like, "Oh, there it is. That's
Yes.
the note," you know?
There's some
It's
body to
probably
this.
yeah, it's probably whatever the frequency is tuned to, and that's why it reverberates a little bit more, so, and so you said your main and you just because I know we had talked about it a lot. Your pedal board is just that Helix
Yeah, Helix. I still kept some of my go-to
favorite,
pedals that I'll never get rid of. And I've been kind of toying with the idea. I know that I'll build it someday. I'll get my pedal board back. I have all my
right?
cables, I have all my soldering stuff. I have my heat shrink, my connectors, I have everything to make like a nice, really robust, small little board. But
Right.
loved JHS. Love that company. I was in love with their double barrel when that came out,
Mm,
and my Morning Glory is like nice stage one drive. I played the J Archer as my second stage drive, like the high gain. The Julia, which really cool, modular, and then
yeah.
Timeline. Uh, Love playing that, and then I had an RV5, those old Boss
Hmm,
RV5s, and the modulation, uh, uh, setting all the way to the left. That thing is just like the Holy Spirit in a box. It's
I
so
love
good.
it.
That especially if you can patch it in to play on the trails of the delays from the timeline, it just adds like a little sparkle and a little sizzle at the end of each that kind of note that you hear.
Right.
But
When you, I know that you have pretty much like on your Helix, like one, like that you normally just use on Sunday mornings. And so do you just kind of like based on whatever the song is, if there's one particular sound that you need, you might create a new preset, or how do you kind of handle that as far as Sundays?
I have like a base setting, and then I have a spot that I can like swap anything
Okay.
out. But most of the time, I think right now it's like a chorus sort of effect because that seems to be what a lot of the guys upstream are doing.
Right.
So just being able to kind of emulate that on the fly. And I used to have a different preset per song with the tempo already dialed and the verbs how I like it and all that stuff. Um, but I filled up I so many songs. That first year that I
Right.
played, it was just like every Sunday was a new song.
True. Yeah.
Um, so just spending it was a lot of time. And then by the time we played them again, it wasn't really applicable to the new way that we were playing it. So I was like,
Right.
I'm just gonna stick with the kind of the bass. So right now I play kind of like a main setting and then yeah, just kind of kick on drives
Yeah.
as needed, verbs as
Well,
needed.
do you find that that main one that you use, is it very similar to like what your pedal board would have been, like a regular pedals, or is this just kind of for what you're doing on a Sunday morning, it's just kind of dialed in for that?
It's just dialed in for that. Like my pedal board was very much during like band days. So it was geared towards a different style of music.
Okay.
It was a lot drier, a little bit cleaner, way simple. Um, but nowadays, or you know, playing on the worship team is just a lot to add.
Yeah.
Um, so that's cool. It's fun to play around with. But one thing that I I haven't quite been able to dial on this, and again, I'm just gonna blame it on the amps. Like, give me a real amp. But I just feel like it can't do like clean really well. Like it just
Okay.
sounds so sterile. Like there's no
Okay.
body to the clean tone, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Guys and it's not with everybody, because I there are other guys who have fantastic clean tones and they, run through this a similar sort of setup. So I need to figure out what it is because it just can't, it doesn't feel right in my
Right.
hands. It just it
You
doesn't
just
sound
gotta
how I want it to be.
talk to Nate. He's the tone master. He
We're gonna need to have like a
a guitar.
a guitar tone hunting evening.
Oh, trust me, he would love that because
Like, just say when and where.
he was talking about, because he, works for Tone Junkies.
Oh,
Um,
sick.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
I didn't know
he's
that.
yeah, he's worked with John now, he said probably about I think he said like 12, 15 years or something like that since he moved to Nashville.
What the
But he
heck,
said
man?
how it all started out was just him, John from Tone Junkies, and then another guy. The three of them were like, "Hey, what if we just got together and just nerded out on
Yeah,
guitar pedals?" And he said, then they were like, "You know what we should do is we should record this." And then and the next thing Kemper and Helix and all these are coming out. And so he started that company. And so Nate works for him, does demos and all that kind of stuff. So he's actually said that is some of his favorite things to do is just get with other guitarists and nerd out over stuff. So
it's
I'm
the
gonna have
best.
to see when I talk to him again, I need to mention it and say, hey, you ought to consider that.
Just say when and where. Like, our church is pretty stacked in terms of, like, guitar players
Yeah,
specifically. Um,
especially right now.
oh my gosh, it's crazy. So, I would love to learn because, again, one thing I think the thing that I feel playing worship music, which is kind of ironic, is I feel isolated. I feel alone when I play
Okay.
because I love accountability, and because I've played with
Sure.
guys who have been very direct as to
Hey,
what the song
here's
needs.
yeah.
When I don't hear that, that doesn't make me feel good, you
Yeah.
know? Or when I hear like, "Man, that sounded great." What sounded great?
Right.
Like, be specific, like, tell
Yeah.
me so I can do that more, so I can add that
Yeah.
more, like, for me, it kinda, yeah, it just feels like I'm painting, with blindfold on, and I want that feedback. I need it.
Yeah.
Because I wanna make sure that I'm serving the song and I'm serving the vision of the
Right.
set the set really well, and you know, I crave that feedback and really
Yeah.
diving into the nitty-gritty of like, "Well, what if it was like this, and what if it was like that?" So yeah, doing that with tone is like
Yeah.
it's awesome. I love it so
Yeah.
much. We need to just throw a date.
Totally, yeah, nerding out on that is
Yeah.
fun for
I told
sure.
him too, we need to, which if Casey sees this before I hit him up, we need to do like a guitar bass players day over at Veritas too.
That'd be
Because
cool.
Casey would love to kind of show us around, and
Yeah,
every time I go over there, he's cooking something crazy up. So
that would be
it's
fun
fun.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one last question on gear. Uh, do you have something right now that I mean, I know your whole world is really more in cameras and video and all that, but is there some kind of pedal or something like that recently that's come out and you're just like, "Oh man, I would love that." In the guitar world, we say gassing, something that have you heard that term before?
I have not.
Yeah, they say gassing, which is gear acquisition syndrome.
Oh my
So
gosh, yes. No, I being a touring musician, you're too broke to get too much.
true, yeah.
And I really only nerded out about the stuff that I could take with me on the road that I toured with because I didn't have a studio. So if I had something that I wasn't taking out on the road with me, it was gonna sit in my house and I would see it, you
True.
know, 15 times a year. which didn't really do anything for me.
Right.
So I feel like I'm very atypical of a guitar player where like I don't have a crazy collection of guitars
Right.
and I was too broke and didn't have the time to really care about the newest like influx
Sure.
of whatever. I just want to make sure that my stuff worked right.
Yeah. I
And
love
that
it.
it sounded good, like I like to keep things simple and yeah, so I don't have anything. I don't think I'd really know if anything came
Right.
out.
Well, and it makes sense though because of the world that you're in right now. If you still were doing,
Yeah,
touring and all that, then
exactly.
obviously you would be talking to the other guitarists or something like that, and you'd be looking at his pedal board. And but like even on a Sunday, like Walter, he's using the QC, so he's got it all integrated. Most of the time Nate's using a Kemper, so he's got everything, so those, it's not a ton of like people who have like these full pedal boards with all these different pedals on them because it's just such a convenient thing to just be able to walk in with the one thing.
And just
And
know that it works.
mhm,
That's kind of the big thing. And also too, the one game changer for the Helix was I was able to rehearse with my tone on the bus while we were driving. If we were adding a song, or if Jordan wanted to rehearse something, or run something through during rehearsal or sound check, that day, we weren't going to play it, but he wanted to kind of run through it. I could basically show up like ready to go, like let's play it tonight,
yeah.
and you just can't do that with it with an actual pedal board.
Sure.
But again, I'll always say like it doesn't sound as good as I know that my other pedal board
Right.
sounded like. But I would love to find 5 people in the audience who could tell. So,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I mean uh, that's it. I would love to dive down. I feel like I'm in need of a good tone, like
Nerding out.
refreshment season.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, you want to
Well,
ask me what camera gear I want? I can go off.
all right. Well, I have texted you a few times on some of that
Yeah,
stuff, being like, "Hey, I'm trying to get some better
I love
video
it.
quality, all that." So,
Yep.
uh, well, this next section I started a little ways back. I call it the rapid fire section,
Okay.
and it's just more of just a fun thing. I change it up a little bit different for guitarists versus bassists, but I decided I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask this one question first, even though it's a base question, because I'm hopefully after, like, say, after a year, I'm going to total up and just see what the
Oh, cool. Okay.
tally is
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But first question: P bass or jazz bass?
Oh my gosh. Like, I would say for what song? That's where I go into specific. That's where my brain goes. I don't know,
Right.
key bass probably.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
mean, it was the standard for years. So, I mean, every Motown song that you've heard came from that. So,
Any song that I like admire that I'm super into is probably playing P bass. There's
yeah,
it's a shuffle and there's a P bass involved.
yeah,
Like those are my favorite songs.
right.
If I
Well,
hear that beat,
you talked about loving John Mayer and like all the bass players that he has had play with him, except for maybe towards the very beginning of the career, are all P bass guys. Sean Hurley, Pino Palladino, they're
yeah,
P bass guys. So,
dude, it's
uh,
the best.
next question is single coils or humbuckers?
Single coils.
Nice. Next question is Telly or Strat?
Tell you.
Nice. And desert island pedal.
Oh, some sort of reverb.
Nate said the El Capitan, or is that
Oh,
what it's called?
yeah, change my answer to that. That's like,
Because he
yeah,
said,
that's a cheat. That's a cheating answer, and I love it. I
well,
love
see,
it.
I didn't know any better. I was just like,
Yes.
oh, I know what the pedal is and I know what it does, but
Yeah.
he was like, because then I can at least play with myself, since I'm
Yeah.
on an island all by myself. So,
Yep. Yeah. For me, I always go do like a reverb. Give me an amp and a reverb pedal, and that's it. It's all I need.
Nice. Favorite guitar player?
Oh my gosh. I've learned so much from so many different people, you know. Uh Favorite guitar player,
You can give me your top 3 if you
Chuck Berry,
Nice.
um, John Mayer, and probably this is not a very, like, unique answer, but probably The Edge. Like,
Hey,
most influential to my life.
I mean, but dude, is there anybody that plays guitar that can't say that he is the godfather of electric guitar? I mean,
He changed the game. Chuck
yeah.
Berry changed the game.
Well,
John
especially
Mayer changed the game.
I
Edge
think
changed the game.
at the time when he did change the game, because obviously you two had been around a lot longer than what most people realize. But at the time of the era when they started really peaking was when that whole 90s, late 80s, 90s hair band rock and roll was out, and the stuff they were playing was not like that.
Yeah.
So then he comes along and the stuff that he starts doing, I mean, I've talked about it with other guitarists. I mean, he basically, it's almost like he's the godfather of worship music because of what he did and how many people just kind of learned from that.
That's when it changed from the, guy with the acoustic guitar to, like, the band. I feel like that's the bridge
Mm.
when, like, the whole band, the anthemic worship music really came in, and I think it got overused,
Sure.
too much, but yeah, I that's man, it just influenced so much. When I was in my band and we were working with that record label up in Sacramento, the guy who owned that record label, his name's Brian Wheat. He's a bass player for a band called Tesla. I don't know if you listen to that band, but he had a recording studio at his house, and we got to record a bunch of stuff there.
That's right. I remember you sharing with me that.
And then there was a studio in downtown Fresno at this terrible unmarked building. It's super shady, but there's this little studio there, and we would rehearse there. All of us in a room together, recording our rehearsals and listening to it back. And this is before I moved to Nashville, before I did any of that. And we didn't really do it in the most healthy way, but it was very much like a learning experience of, like, listening to what a band sounds like, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like U2 and The Edge was very much like they just sounded like a band. It was simple. They didn't have a ton of stuff going on,
I mean,
but
three-piece.
three piece, and that let The Edge do what he did. I feel like now it's what's hard for me to hear is, like, U2 would not be the same if there were two of The Edge in that
Right.
band. It would just sound like almost
Yeah.
too muddy. The reason why
Yeah.
he was so good was because he had the space, the sonic space to do what he did and be so impactful. So that's yeah, made a huge imprint on my mind.
I love that. Next, we get to favorite coffee of choice. I knew I was going to, when I got to talk to you, that there was going to be some coffee discussion.
Like roaster, espresso, we talking
Let's just
pour
say,
over.
like maybe your favorite brand that's like your go-to brand.
In town, the Well roasts amazing coffee. Coincidentally, my one of my best friends in the whole world is the roaster over there. So shout out to Tommy Beeson. Uh, yeah, they roast some amazing coffee. If it's like nationwide, I always loved to stop off at Madcap Coffee in Michigan.
Okay.
Madcap's like the mecca for all us musicians. We know it. We all can envision the outside of the one on
I
the
think
corner.
I think that's the one that Park mentioned too. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so good. It's unreal. I'm a big Google Maps guy, and I would have saved pins, a whole list of saved pins for food and coffee, and I would share it with my other musician friends, and so
Nice.
they'd be able to add to it too. So I know there was a notes list going around for years there, and still probably going around that like everybody in Nashville's on. And I think my food and coffee list is kind of spread over time
Nice.
because every once in a while I'll get a ping of someone adding a coffee shop, and I'm like, I don't know who that is, but
Nice.
I
Nice.
love it.
What about as far as roasts? Are you like a light roast, medium, dark, light roast?
Light roast. I love a Yirgacheffe Ethiopia natural is my favorite. But I also love Kenyan coffees if they're very like they have like a fruit body, a little bit of acidity. I don't like the kind of like vegetable-y Kenyans,
Right.
but yeah, I like a little bit of acidity. I'm not a big fan of the Guatemalans, like Central America coffees. They don't they don't they don't do it for me. But just black coffee, hot coffee. I don't care if it's 150 degrees outside. I'm always black coffee. Always.
Well, what about like local coffee shop? What's the one that like I guess the Well is kind of your or what about in Spring Hill here? What's the one that you frequent the most?
In Spring Hill, I love going to Awaken House. Awaken House is awesome. Good vibes, good people. I I'm I'm kind of particular about when I order espresso because I just order espresso, and when they don't give me a little spoon and a little thing of seltzer water to go with it,
Right.
it kind of you gotta have it. Like, I don't
Well, this is
understand.
coming from a guy who's Italian, so it makes sense,
Well,
right? I
very
mean,
true, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
You won't
your
yeah.
taste buds. So,
I love a nice I just love nice rich espresso.
yeah,
After lunchtime, that's usually what I go for. But before that, I'm always like some sort of black drip coffee.
nice. Well, what about music that you're currently listening to? Is there anything like you hop in the car, you throw on Spotify or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
what are you listening to right now?
Man, I have an eclectic taste in music. But lately I've been playing a lot of Amber Mark. She's like
Okay.
an R&B uh soul artist. She's awesome. That might be my favorite genre of music. And I listen to a lot of the band Camino, one of my top favorite. I'm always playing the band Camino. There's kind of a newer band called In Color that I've been listening to a
Hmm.
lot. They remind me of early Switchfoot,
Okay.
um, which is pretty cool. Um, like a modern early Switchfoot, which is really awesome.
Well, I can tell the influence because of the band Camino on you. Because like when we do sound checks on Sunday mornings, and you have that like standard like
Hmm.
sound that and you hit those open chords, and I'm always just like hearing some of their songs starting in my
Yeah,
head when you do those chords.
yeah.
It's like such a cool sound. I
I could
mean,
do a whole podcast just on my thoughts of how to sound check properly.
that's amazing.
Like, there's a reason why I play the same thing every time.
Yeah,
There's a reason why I play those particular notes in that order with that sound, like, because I'm giving it's for the sound guy.
yeah,
Like, he
yep,
doesn't care what lick you just learned. Like,
yeah.
he's trying to
Yeah. Well, it
get levels.
also it helps you to consistency too, because then what you hear, if something sounds off, then you know right then. Okay, what's going on? Something's not right. I need to go over to my in-ear mix, whatever. So yeah, that's awesome. Wrapping things up here, that I always like to ask, what's something like I know in some of the guys that I've talked to in this whole world are kind of like wear different hats. On Sundays, some guys will play bass, some guys will play drums and bass, and multiple. But let's just say somebody who's wanting, maybe they're already a bass player and they're like, you know what, I bought myself a guitar. What advice would you give for somebody wanting to get into like the worship part of guitar?
Man, Do it. Um, do it. I think we have an obligation as musicians to contribute. That's what I think. We play such an impact on people's lives, on the morning, um, that we will never understand and we'll never
Or no
know all the
sometimes. Yeah.
impact.
Hmm.
And I think we just have an obligation. God gives us our gifts, and we're not just supposed to keep them in. Um, I had an MD who told me that worship music, and this is how I view it. I kind of take it seriously. Um, back in the day, music was played when they went to war, and one of the first instruments on the battlefield, were the drums. And so when I hear drums and when I'm on set or on stage on a Sunday morning or anytime, I, I try to have the heart posture of we're going to war right now. And in the context of worship music and playing
Yeah.
for Jesus, we're 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 the drummer out there on the field. And sometimes there's people going through it. They're up at the front lines and they're like, man, we're getting shredded up here. But we are that cadence and that sound to inspire people, to carry them through, to help them dig deep, to give them that release. And if you have that gift, if you have the desire to have that gift, if you're starting to have that gift, it's your responsibility to steward that and um, to contribute. And it doesn't have to be at the main campus if you're at a multi-campus church.
Right.
It doesn't have to be at the biggest church in town. You don't have to be the lead main guitar player. You don't have to, have all these things that you might have in your mind. Like just contribute, like
Yeah.
small, and
It
have
can
fun
even
with it.
be starting at like students.
100%. Like my life would have been a completely different trajectory if I wasn't, given the reins and like, here, kids, do whatever, play,
Right.
make a set, make a set of worship songs and do that every week. Like my life would be completely different. Like who knows what my life would have been like if I didn't have that. And yeah, I feel like it's a responsibility, but there needs to be accountability in any sort of journey and any sort of offering like that. Like you have to be
Yeah.
accountable. So find somebody who like you're willing to listen to, and that who you respect where they're coming from when they tell you like, hey, you need to work on this, you need to work on that. I feel like it's good in the beginning to just
Yeah.
kind of let passion steer you, but
Yes.
you need to understand and be aware of where you're at, and where you need to be, because all of us need to get better at different things. Um, but the
Yeah.
the best thing about it is there's plenty of opportunity to learn. Even if you're not playing on a Sunday morning, ask your worship leader if you could sit in at rehearsal. I guarantee you the answer is going to be yes, and I guarantee you're going to learn a ton.
Yeah. Especially if you can even just like listen in to like what they're hearing, have some in ears or have some headphones and just listen. You can hear what each instrument is doing. You can hear the MD talking. And because it is a different deal, especially when you're going to get into those flow moments
Hmm.
and where we don't really know what's going to happen and kind of being led by the Holy Spirit. So,
Yeah, everything seems really fast. I remember playing some sets where our adrenaline's going, and you're like, man, this song is slow. It's like because we're so hyped up, we're just like
right,
charging through it, and it's like exposing yourself to those high stress like flow moments a lot early on helps you not get that way when it's really happening. Helps you kind of relax and really like listen to the moment, be ready to go, almost like a goalie in hockey. Like you're waiting, you're not committing to anything yet, and then it's
right.
bam, bam, bam. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
That's awesome. Well, that looks like we're about out of time here. I wanted to offer though, do you have like as far as social media, like a Instagram or any of that that you can share in case somebody wants to follow you?
Yeah, yeah. My Instagram handle is J_Lav, LAV. I'm not about to make you try to spell my last name. And my production company is Echo Point Co. on Instagram, and you know,
Nice.
website, all that stuff. But yeah, that's where to
Cool.
find
Yeah,
me.
I always like to let people share that stuff because it's cool, especially like with you. You show some of the behind the scenes stuff of like what you got going on, whether
Yeah, yeah,
what you're filming, and so I always enjoy getting to see that and see how
yeah.
you come up with whether you're wearing the big harness, camera or whatever it is, it's just kind of cool
Yeah, you
what
never
it
know
takes.
what I'm gonna be.
Well, it's amazing, because what it takes to get a particular shot, we just don't realize, what
Well,
all goes into that.
it's funny. It's like just very similar from what I learned in music. Just a lot of intentionality, a lot of prep. And then in the moment, the day of, you're able to flex and kind of bend where the moment leads. But you kind of have that basis of knowledge ahead of time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Jay,
Uh,
thanks for having me, dude. This is
Dude,
fun.
what's funny is I remember asking you about this, like when I was in the creation days of,
Yeah.
putting my idea of, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. And I remember being back in the green room, like, dude, eventually I would love to have you come on, talk about some of your experiences and all that. So I'm glad that you had a down enough afternoon here that we could make it happen. So
Dude, this is great. That storm can't stop us.
that's right.
This
Heck
is
yeah.
awesome. And it's been cool to see you. I mean, you've been cranking out these episodes like crazy and get some traction. And it's cool to see you kind of like just go for it. It's been great.
Yeah.
It's been
Well,
fun to
and
watch.
it's been a lot of fun for me. Just like even the certain things like now you're the third person from the church, like as far as that's non-bassist that
Yeah.
I've had an interview with, and all three of you dad has some kind of pastoral ministry. So Jeremy, his dad was a worship pastor. uh Nate, his dad was a worship pastor. So then the first thing I was sitting back going, is he about to tell me that his dad, because I was like, this is
Yep.
like trifecta here.
Now we need to do a tone hunting slash support group.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So I just thought that was really cool. That's been my favorite part, is getting to, because on a Sunday morning, and even if you're going out for coffee sometimes, you don't always have the ability to hear people's stories. And that's kind of what the coffee and the worship based coffee is it's a to just suggest to people, hey, invite people on your worship team out for coffee, get to
Yeah.
know them. That's how
Yeah.
and I talk about it all the time, is that's how you build that chemistry on stage, together, is when you get to know more than just the person who's playing the drums or whatever, but you know them in here, man, there's a different type of connection that just can't be explained. I don't know how to explain it other than, like I said, just chemistry,
Yeah.
So,
That was one of the biggest things about being on the road. And in that morning time when we'd listen through the set, we'd also talk about like deep things, like really challenge ourselves. Like we talk about our marriages, talk about our
mm,
finances, talk about all the stresses we have, like really get to know each other because yeah,
yeah,
it translates to being on stage. And I feel like with modern artists these days, there's less of a band on stage with them. And I feel like that's kind of like missing. So it just makes it even more special to be able to be a part of like a worship band where you get to be playing with a band, with a
yeah,
group of other people.
yes,
It's a special
yeah.
thing.
And it's people that live in your own community, which is great
Yeah.
too. I mean, both of us are here in Spring Hill and at the bridge. And even when we're not serving, we see each other at church, and it's, that's that community, that extra community that you have. So
Yeah.
anyway, cool, man. Well,
Heck
thanks
yeah.
again. And
Thanks, Jay.
I'll let you get going and tell the fam I said thanks for letting me borrow you for a little while.
Will do. Anytime.
All right, dude. I'll catch you later.
All right, see ya.
See ya. And welcome back to the Worship Based Coffee Studios. And episode 19 is done. Jordan was great, or J-Love, I should say. Did a great job, great interview. I really always enjoy hanging out with him. That's some of the things of getting to know people on your team, just kind of builds the chemistry, builds those relationships. And it was just cool to get to hear more about his story in detail, and really neat to find out how many of these guys that have been coming on here whose dad was a worship pastor. It's kind of crazy how many. So didn't know that about them. And so it's kind of cool. So thanks again to Jordan for coming on. It was great. I have 3 quick agenda items that I wanted to mention. First of all, thank you to everybody who purchased or pre-ordered the worship-based coffee hats. Can't begin to say thank you enough. Today, when I'm recording this, is January 22nd. This week is when I will be putting in the order. I already sent an email in. They should be getting it, and then we'll get that rolling this week, and should be a pretty quick turnaround. Those guys are pretty quick. And so once I get them, I'll be sending information out on the shipping and all that. And I'm excited to see y'all rep them out there in the wild. Make sure that you take some pictures of wearing it, and we'll repost it, and tag us and we'll repost it. Would love to be able to do that. And secondly, as many of you know, a guest I've had on a couple times, his name's Josh Summers. He's become a really good friend of mine, and I got some really positive feedback from people about the episode that he was on, and just decided, you know what, maybe it would be cool to bring somebody on in kind of a shared responsibility thing with the worship-based coffee whatever you want to call it, community. That's the word. I just thought it'd be fun to bring somebody on, and he and I really have a lot in common, and just get along really well. And so I thought, hey, this might be cool. Have him jump on with some guests, and have a trio on the podcast, and also to have him do some occasional demos, maybe some bass cover, stuff like that, and just kind of jump in with some of the stuff on the Worship Bass Instagram page and also YouTube page. So anyway, I'm excited about having him come on and do that with me. And so you'll be seeing his face some more. So if any of you see him out there in the social media world, be sure to welcome him on into the community. So the last thing is today, the day that this podcast is coming out, is actually going to be Monday, March 23rd, which also happens to be my wedding anniversary. So I just wanted to, we end the podcast by saying, tell someone you love them. And so I just want to say that I love my wife, and I'm so grateful to have spent this time married to her. And she's been a huge supporter of this and me doing this. And like right now, she's went outside with our special needs son, and is playing with him outside just so that he can, I won't have to do any editing of his sounds and stuff. So I just want to say how much I appreciate her, how much I love her, and I'm grateful and very lucky to have been married to her. And so again, as we say at the end of every single episode, be sure to tell someone you love them, and we'll see you next time.